Hello, learners and readers. This is Economic Insight. Welcome back. Our mission, as always, is to take the key stories from the front page of the Seoul Economic Daily and really make them easy to understand. Quick insights on critical news. And today, wow, we have quite a mix. We're looking at the super rich moving capital overseas, a major liquidity shock in the crypto world here in Korea,
Mm.
big spending plans for aging infrastructure, and the latest Nobel Prize in economics.
Yeah, a really diverse set of topics, but all pretty significant.
Definitely. Let's jump right in. I want to start with this trend, this movement of Korean family office funds.
Yeah.
The headline figure is stark. At least 800 billion KRW has moved to Singapore since just 2023. What's going on there?
Right. So a family office, or FO, it's basically a private wealth management firm for one extremely wealthy family,
Hmm.
often set up after, say, a founder sells their company. Big liquidity event.
Okay.
And the main driver pushing them out of Korea, it really boils down to taxes. We're talking heavy domestic inheritance tax, gift tax, even stock transfer taxes. So once they have these, billions in cash from a sale, they start looking for places where they can manage and grow that wealth globally without facing those, frankly, quite severe domestic tax burdens later on.
And this isn't just abstract capital, right? The article mentions specific names, big names.
Exactly. People like Jung Kang-sik, formerly of Hyperconnect, remember the 2 trillion KRW sale?
Yeah, huge deal.
He's looked at Singapore. Also part of the Hyosung Group family, amid some internal disputes, apparently. And Heo Jae-myung, who sold Ilgen Materials to Lotte for about 2.7 trillion KRW. He's also exploring Singapore FOs.
So we're talking major entrepreneurs, founders, the people who built these massive companies.
That's right. And Singapore, well, they're not passive bystanders here. They are actively encouraging this. Their government has a strategy,
Rolling out the red carpet.
pretty much. They deliberately don't impose inheritance taxes like Korea does. They don't heavily scrutinize the day-to-day asset management. Instead, they incentivize investment or donations within Singapore. And, crucially, they want those high-paying financial jobs that come with managing that kind of wealth. They're aiming to be the premier financial hub in Asia.
There's a warning in the article, though, citing a global investment bank source. It suggests Korea could face a serious capital drain, maybe like what happened in Taiwan.
Yes, that's the comparison being drawn. Taiwan, arguably, prioritized manufacturing maybe a bit too much over developing its high-end financial sector. The risk for Korea is similar. If policy doesn't adapt to support a domestic FO industry, not only does the tax revenue leave,
But the expertise, too.
precisely, the capital goes, the top financial talent might follow, and the whole ecosystem for managing complex global assets doesn't develop domestically. It could create a really structural weakness.
A structural weakness. Okay, let's switch gears dramatically now, from that kind of high-level capital movement to something much more volatile, the crypto market, specifically Bithumb.
Oh yes, the Tether incident.
Right, Bithumb, Korea's second biggest exchange. Tether, USDT, the stablecoin, supposedly pegged to $1, but on October 11th, it briefly hit 5,755 KRW. That's almost 5 times the expected value. How on earth does a stablecoin do that?
It's a wild story. It happened during a big global market dip,
Yeah.
partly triggered by Trump's talk about 100% tariffs on China.
Okay, so market stress, people fleeing to safety.
Exactly. Investors rush out of things like Bitcoin and into stablecoins like Tether. Demand spikes. That's normal.
But 5,755 KRW isn't normal.
Not at all. The extreme price spike on Bithumb specifically was caused by, well, a couple of things together. A severe lack of Tether liquidity on their platform at that moment.
Right.
Combined with Bithumb's own USDT lending service, that service seems to be the key trigger.
Okay, break down that lending service connection for us. How does high demand plus lending equal a 5-fold price surge? It sounds counterintuitive for a stablecoin.
Yeah, think of it like getting margin called. People were borrowing USDT using other assets as collateral,
Right.
maybe with an 85% loan-to-value ratio, right?
Right.
So when the demand for Tether surged, its price started to tick up slightly, even before the big spike. But if the price rises just, say, 11% unexpectedly, it can automatically trigger liquidations for anyone who borrowed Tether. Their collateral gets sold off to cover the loan.
The system forces selling to cover the rising value of what was borrowed.
Exactly. And because Bithumb apparently didn't have enough actual Tether on hand to meet all the buy orders and manage these liquidations smoothly,
It created a feedback loop.
a massive cascading liquidation event. The system was essentially forced to buy Tether at any price to close out these lending positions, causing the price to just skyrocket locally, completely detached from global markets where Tether was still around, 550 KRW.
Wow. So a localized liquidity crunch amplified by their own lending product. No wonder investors were upset.
Absolutely. And predictably, the Financial Supervisory Service, the FSS, has stepped in. They've started an investigation into these stablecoin price swings. It highlights real systemic risks in these markets.
Okay, from digital market risk, let's pivot back to the physical world. Concrete and steel. We've seen some worrying infrastructure failures recently, that retaining wall collapse in Osan, the bridge subsidence in Daejeon.
Yeah, those were concerning incidents. And it seems the government is taking notice. There's a big policy response in the works.
Tell us about that.
It's a proposed special act. The plan is to allocate up to 10 trillion KRW in national funds over the next 10 years.
10 trillion KRW. That's a serious amount. Where's it going?
Specifically for repairing aging infrastructure. The focus is on facilities over 30 years old, and particularly in non-metropolitan areas.
Why the focus outside the big cities?
Well, that's often where the older infrastructure is, and crucially where local governments have less budget capacity for major repairs. Plus, these older structures are more vulnerable to, climate change impacts, extreme weather.
Makes sense. Now, a key detail seems to be the speed. The article mentions these funds could be dispersed without a preliminary feasibility study, the YETA. Can you explain why skipping that is significant?
Right, the YETA. That's the standard process, the due diligence.
Yeah.
It assesses if a big project is economically viable, necessary, cost-effective before committing national funds. It takes time.
So skipping it means faster money.
Much faster. The idea is speed. The government sees an urgent problem. They estimate vulnerable facilities could reach nearly 300,000 in a decade, and they want to inject funds quickly.
What's the potential downside of skipping that check?
Well, the trade-off is oversight for speed. Skipping the feasibility study potentially opens the door to less efficient spending, maybe projects chosen for political reasons or just waste. But the upside, the government hopes, is immediate stimulus for local construction.
A kind of sweet rain, as the article puts it.
Exactly, a boost for struggling regional economies and hopefully preventing more dangerous failures. It's a calculated risk, prioritizing immediate action.
Okay, so we've looked at instability in finance, crypto, physical structures. Let's wrap up with the world of economic theory, the Nobel Prize.
Yes, the Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences. This year, it went to Joel Mokyr, Philippe Aghion, and Peter Howitt.
And their contribution.
They were recognized for establishing the theory of how sustained economic growth happens, driven fundamentally by technological progress and innovation.
So answering the basic question, why do economies keep getting richer over the long run?
Essentially, yes. Before them, models often predicted economies would eventually settle into a steady state. They provided a framework for understanding continuous improvement.
And the key concept often associated with Aghion and Howitt is creative destruction, right? Builds on Schumpeter's idea. What does that actually mean for, the average person or business?
It means that growth isn't smooth or gentle. It's inherently disruptive. New, better technologies or business models emerge.
Like Netflix.
That's a perfect example. Netflix comes along with streaming, a new technology and business model. It effectively destroys the old model Blockbuster video stores. That destruction is painful for Blockbuster.
Very painful.
But it's necessary for the creation of the new, more efficient streaming industry, which ultimately benefits consumers and creates new kinds of jobs and economic activity.
So innovation requires making old ways obsolete.
Precisely. Their work provides the theoretical and mathematical underpinning for why competition and innovation are vital, even though they cause disruption. It explains why markets constantly force businesses and even governments to adapt. Old, inefficient ways have to give way to the new for growth to continue.
Until now, we have discussed the themes of Korean capital flight, crypto liquidity concerns, major infrastructure investment plans, and the Nobel economic theory on sustained growth. We will return next time with rapid news and insights. This has been Economic Insight from the Seoul Economic Daily. Thank you.